get your earballs ready. Welcome to the Greg and Tim Show podcast. Take time to sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Here are your hosts, Greg and Tim.
Hey, welcome back to the Greg and Tim Show. Today we have a fantastic episode for you. We have a special guest, and actually we have two special guests. If you see one that's roaming around our feet here, that is my dog Kingston. It keeps him from whining and crying when we're all in here. And that's why I have Tim here. It keeps him from whining and crying.
Keeps you from whining and crying.
I'm in here, so... Anyway, today we have a special guest. His name is Dan Craig. Dan is a Guinness Book World Record holder for Cyr. Am I pronouncing it right? Cyr Wheel. And he spun for a large amount of time. We're going to get into that in a few minutes here. And I don't know how he did it because I do a couple spins around in the room and I fall over. So it's like having a drink with Tim on a Saturday night.
Or Saturday morning.
Whatever works best.
Grab your phone, it's podcast time. It's the Greg and Tim Show. It's the Greg and Tim Show.
Welcome to the show, Dan. Thanks for coming over.
Pleasure to be here. Greg, Tim, thanks for having me.
It's I know that your schedule is super busy because you are a jet-setting. You are basically Ric Flair in the acrobat industry.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of travel, and you get a little tired from it, but you try to just remember, the fact that 3 years ago you were begging to do this. So
yeah,
here we are. We hit a new record for flights in 2023 with 145 takeoffs to landings, if you can believe that.
Wow.
There you go.
So first question here. When you do have downtime and you come home, like today, you're not going anywhere this weekend, I assume, correct?
Correct.
And then you have downtime. Do you just like veg out completely, or what was your day like? What's your weekend like this weekend?
Well, the weekend was, you try to reestablish with your friends and family who you haven't seen in a while,
Yeah.
And especially my brother just had a son, so that was pretty exciting. Met him
Awesome.
earlier. No, I actually have to go. We run a circus studio in the city as well, so I'll have to go there in a couple hours and get to work there and train a little bit. So you try to take it easy and you try to just reconnect with your friends and the people who you don't get to see very often. But no, the work never ends. It never ends.
Never ends. You also, we were talking a little bit prior to starting to record here. You do a stream on Twitch.
Twitch, yes.
Twitch, right? You haven't done that in a little while because you've been busy. Thankfully, right?
Yeah, it's been great. I do miss it, but it's way too much stuff to carry around. I already carry enough equipment around that I don't need to carry anymore. But no, I do miss streaming, and I always really enjoy the digital format. When you're not forced to do it, to be very clear. But
that was born out of 2020, or did you do it prior?
I started doing that in 2012.
Okay.
Because my wife and I are both big video game enthusiasts when we're not performing or training, and Twitch had just been sold by Justin TV at the time,
right?
And it migrated from a largely illegal site of like unlicensed sports broadcast to this, what at the time was an esports platform. So that's where I joined Twitch. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So your wife and you they're gamers, right?
We do like to game.
So when you're hanging out, you got some downtime. You got a couple hours. What are you playing?
Well, right now, Kim is playing. We carry a Switch around with us to her. So she was late to the party. She's doing Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom right now, which are Legend of Zelda games. And
okay.
I like to play games, more PvP games online with friends. Hop on Discord and just be goofballs and have a cocktail and relax at the end of the night, kind of thing. So, yeah, stuff like that.
So with the time zone changes, because you're a lot of the time like on the other side of the world. Mm-hmm. Right? Can you still get on with friends? Or
not that often, no. That's mostly a home thing.
Okay.
Just when we're on the road, we don't have a lot of time anyway. So
yeah, you're very busy once you're on the road.
Yeah, it's a different life. It's like two lifestyles. So
yeah,
one here, one out there.
Okay, cool.
Explain some of those differences. Like what is life? How is it different when you are out on the road versus here?
So out on the road, basically, it's like everything revolves around your show, and that's and some days you're doing 2 or 3 in a day. So really, if you have an afternoon show at 3 and then you have 2 evening shows at 7 and 9, you don't really have time for anything else. It's like because you have to warm up, you have to train, you have to cool down, you have to eat in a certain way, and then at home you have a little more control over your time. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's basically when you're on the road, it's like pretty much everything is about the job. You know, not to say we don't make time to go and do exciting stuff, because you do, but you know, and to be completely honest as well, if you're in, you know, on Madeira Island in Portugal or Tokyo in Japan, and you have a night off, you're probably not going to want to sit and play video games. So let's be, you know, so yeah, it's more of a home thing. Yeah, it's just like you just keep. It's just way busier because everything is built around the job you have to do. That's the most important thing.
But like Tokyo, Japan. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the other one in
Madeira
Portugal.
Island.
Madeira Island. You've been there multiple times,
Yep.
right? Does it get old? Do you get used to it? Do you get monotonous with that? Or
So the short answer is no.
No? Yeah.
Because as you know, we've talked before. Tim, you may not know, we spent a lot of time in Japan. Last year we were there back and forth. Yeah, it's 12 times we spent over 3 months, I think, in time.
Oh, wow.
And Tokyo is a city with a greater metropolitan area of 60 million people, and it runs like a well-oiled machine. And it's the kind of place where you could go out every single night for an entire year and find something new every single day.
Oh, wow.
It's extraordinary. There's nowhere like it in the world.
Yeah.
How did you find the niche of being able to perform to crowds in Japan? Is there just more people there to attract, or how did you find that?
We went there for the first time in October 2012. And we were performing in New Zealand earlier that year in January, so about 10 months prior. And a manager from Japan was at the same event we were working at. And she's like, I want to bring you to Japan this year. We were like, great, cool. Like, we've never been. Let's do it. And she's like, don't worry. You're very, your shows are very verbal, but just learn a couple words and speak English. They love to hear English as well.
Yeah. Arigato.
Like, yeah, arigato.
Mr. Magato.
Pretty much whatever. And we were like, as we got closer to the day, closer to the time we were going to leave, we were like, well, that's lame. Like, it just seems kind of like a cop out to go to another place and be like, okay, you're gonna listen to my English when nobody there speaks English. It's stupid. So the first time we went, we memorized certain elements of our script that were translated for us, and we showed up and we did that, and the manager was like I couldn't believe it. So she's like, come back for New Year's. We're like, great. Like, okay, great. Come back for Golden Week, which is happening right now. It's like a springtime holiday in Japan.
Oh, okay.
We're like, great. She's like, okay, come back next October. So we went there 4 times in the span of 12 calendar months.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we loved it each and more every time. And so now I'm happy to say that we can both speak and perform our show in Japanese. My reading and writing got kind of slow during COVID because I was sad and didn't study. But, we've been going there for 12 years now, and it's really become a huge part of our lives, just based on somebody seeing it in New Zealand in 2012. So there you go.
Can you say it's great to be on the Greg and Tim show in Japanese?
Yeah. このポッドキャストは Greg と Tim ショーです。来てくれてありがとう。No, sorry, I screwed that up. I said thank you. I said thank you for coming. So I usually say that on my show, and I was like, このポッドキャストはめっちゃ素晴らしい。皆様楽しんできてください。ありがとうございます。Translation was, this podcast is amazing. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone. Please enjoy this. And
awesome.
Enjoy it. So something like
that's fantastic. Awesome. We always get off track right off the beginning because we get excited about our guests and talking about everything.
Yeah.
We have to ask the question though, because this question is asked of every guest, and it's the hardest question we ask unless you're prepared for it. So we sent it to you in an email. I don't know.
I did read it, and I know the question.
He was busy playing video games.
He's like, let me check that email real quick. Sorry, that one was stricken from the questions. The question is, we know all about. Well, not everybody that watches, but everybody's going to know all about Dan Craig, the performer, because we're going to talk about your performances. But if you were to go and explain yourself in an elevator pitch today, who is Dan Craig?
See, I thought about this a lot actually in the
And
last
not
couple
the
of
Bond
days.
character.
Yeah, no, I know. Although I could be, and you'd never know, Master of Disguise. But by the way, side note on that, you should see how disappointed people are when I show up at airports, especially in Europe. Anyway, like, do you think that guy would be flying on Air Canada to seat 31B in the middle? No, anyway. I actually really thought about this question, and it sent me into like a mini spiral of panic because that's a question that I think everyone kind of grapples with in their own way.
Yes, very sure.
But so I was like, okay, we'll focus on the positive first. But you know what? I guess so. The basic answer is I'm a lifetime performer who started performing very young. This July will be 30 years
Wow.
of being a professional performing circus.
So you started at 5 years old.
Yeah, well, thank you for the generous estimate. But no, I was 10, so if you can believe it, I turned 40 in like a week.
In a week?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Join our club.
what's that?
You can join our club.
I know,
There's
we
a
go.
secret handshake.
Oh, really?
You'll learn it when
So
you turn
excited.
40.
When you hobble to.
Yeah. I still got lots of time pre-hobble.
You do, yes.
But no, I was faced with a choice in my mid to late teens of pursuing the interest of performing in circus, or my other interest was computer science, and I finished first year computer science in an advanced course. So I finished it before I finished high school, and then I just had this moment because I was already touring in the summers at the time. Where I was like, I don't want to sit at a desk and on my butt, and like I've already been doing this for like let's see how far this goes, and I can always go back to sitting on my butt, like writing code.
Yeah.
And 30 years later, and we haven't had to go back to sitting on my butt writing code. So
That's awesome.
So I deferred. I had some scholarship options from the U of M for their computer science program. I declined them and just went on, then started touring like a crazy person. And here we are.
And this was before you met your wife.
Yeah. So we didn't meet for another 8 years after that. So I performed.
Wow.
I performed a one-person show up until we met. And
did you meet on the road, or
we met in the bustling metropolis of Brockville, Ontario? She was performing in a trio. She had two other colleagues. They did an aerial show together. And then I was performing solo at the time. And then we had like a few festivals in a row and a few contracts in a row. And the tour romance became like romance. And we were like, well, we were at a point where she was going to Germany and I was going to Singapore, but I had like 2 weeks before that contract started. And we were talking on Skype as with the style at the time. And she's like, well, what are we doing? It was a really fun like couple months. And like, okay, well, so now what?
It's like summer camp.
Yeah, it's like summer camp. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to call you back in 5 minutes. And so I hung up on Skype and I booked a ticket to Germany, and that was pretty much that for the 2 weeks.
Wow.
Then we were like, well, we better make something together if we ever want to see each other, because at that when you
do a show.
Yeah, do a show together, because at that point it's like a double long distance relationship.
Yeah.
You're not. It's not like one person's in Canada and the other or Chicago at the time, and then one person is on the road. It's like, okay, I'm in Singapore, you're in Berlin, now I'm in Macau, and you're in Frankfurt. Like it's like a double long distance relationship. So in the effort to make something together, that's kind of where that all started. To answer your question though, I don't know, like lifelong entertainer, and I really think that I try to really focus on the positive, because I really did think about this a lot. Is that I'm very proud to say that whatever it is that I've done, I've never done it halfway.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can say it, but I've never done it half-assed. Is that okay? Okay, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I whole-assed the whole thing, and that's I think whether it's computer science at the time or acrobatics or producing events, as you know, we also produce,
or cheering for the Jets.
Oh yeah,
whole ass all the way.
Yeah. My brain cells just go into the single digits when I'm at a Jet game. It's fantastic. It's so much fun.
Speaking of ass, but yeah.
So anyway, but that's what I think is like. I think Who Am I is just somebody who puts their whole self into whatever they're doing at the time, for better, for worse.
Yeah.
Because that's not always the best course of action. But so far it seems to have worked out okay, and I'm pretty happy with how.
So do you started? So you got together at that time with your now wife.
Yes.
And you decided to make a professional decision to collaborate on pretty much everything you do, so you can travel together and not be separate.
Exactly. Yeah.
So have you collaborated on all your shows from then till now? Has it been whatever, 28, 29, 30 years of collaboration on all your shows together?
So we started working together full time in 2009. Sorry, and there was like a that transition year of where like she was winding down her contracts with her that she had. I was doing the same, and then it got to I think so. Yeah, September. Somewhere in 2011, I guess, and we just kind of made the choice. It's like, okay, we again now we whole ass this thing, and we don't take any contracts for ourselves, even if they come in. So yeah, that was probably getting close to 13 years ago. So we had a couple of years where it was kind of like, moving from one to the other, phasing out our own individual projects and coming together like that. So
what are the best and worst things about working every day with your spouse?
I'm very proud to say that we do a very good job of being in small spaces together. It's like we actually have a line in our show. Sometimes it's like, we live together in close quarters. We work together in close quarters. We travel together in close quarters, and we have not killed each other yet. So that is a win, baby. That's what we're talking about. But it comes with, it's like anything. It comes with challenges. It's like, but we're both very independent. Like we're both very much, we finish a long run of contracts, and Kim will go into her office in our home, and I'll go into my office in the basement, and I'm like, hey, we'll see you at dinner. Or she'll be like, I'm going to go to Cleveland to visit my sister for the weekend, and I'm like, great. She's like, do you want to come? I'm like, no, I'm just going to have some quiet time. Or I'm going to go to Tokyo we got 10 days off. I'm going to go to Tokyo to visit some friends. And we're both very, very much able to do that and not have it be like an upfront, like, oh, you're going away, it means you don't want to. It's like, and we spend a lot of time together, it's like, and we work very well together, like in that regard, especially. And, of course, like anything, there's times where it's like, you don't see eye to eye, but then you realize like, oh no, that's just people. Like it's just the thing that happens no matter what you're doing. It could be, for some people, it could be where you're gonna go eat tonight. For us, it's like, oh, we should put this in the show. Maybe it's not ready yet. Oh no, let's try it. I don't know. Like whatever. So that's about it.
I guess the thing is, you're doing something that you love, right? Like you both love what you're doing, I assume.
Yeah.
And by doing something that you love, it's just like a creative, like the creative juices probably flow all the time with you guys.
Yeah, it's really fun, and it's really fun to go through the ideas that come up, and you're like, man, some of these are great, and you're like, some of these are just terrible. But that's not part of it, right? It's fun. It's fun. It's just like you have these ideas that you visualize this thing in your head, and you're like, well, that could be really cool, and then you spend half an hour trying to put it together. Like, this is a disaster. Just like crumple that up, and we're out of here. So but
I've had some ideas about the show, and they've been terrible.
Well, I mean, this is a creative endeavor as well, right? Like you got to sift through all the junk to get to the gold, and eventually you get something that's good. So
I think the biggest thing with creativity is being on the same page.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So for you and your wife to be on the same page for your show, like you wrote your own show as well, right?
Yeah.
It was retro.
It was called Throwback. Yeah.
Throwback.
Yeah. That was a project very near and dear to our hearts that came from playing a game in 2019 that was like it was a brand new title, but it was an homage to like all those 2D side scrollers that we grew up with, Mega Man, Mario, like all those kind of things, and basically it had a beautiful soundtrack, and you had that really like, oh, I'm like, feels like sitting in my mom's wood paneled basement, with putting the channel to 3, and that's not going to make sense for some people who are listening to this. Putting the channel to 3 and then turning on the console, and then having it, like that,
blowing into the cartridge.
I had thought of that forever.
Yeah.
You had to put it on 3 because that was the input that you would have.
And funnily enough, so in that show, without giving too much away, at the ending, the main character has a Nintendo and an original, the golden cartridge of The Legend of Zelda, if you recall that thing. And he puts it in to play it, and he goes back to like being the kid in his mom's basement, like that feeling again. And the hardest part of that entire show was getting the Nintendo to friggin' work. Because like he would plug it in and it would go like, and he's like, okay, he would take it out, blow it in the thing, and people were like, oh, that's funny. Then he'd take it and go, really? It's like, oh, geez, come on. Just. But when it worked, it was great. It worked more times than not, but that was the most.
You know what, though? During your show, when we were watching it, and because me and Tim went to your show almost 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
Watching that, it was like it was fantastic, the whole show. And then at the end, when he does do that,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you ruin the ending here, because like it gives anybody that grew up in that era chills just hearing the bloop when it opens up, and like
the Zelda music as the lights come down. It was very intentionally put to that. Like it was meant to be that like, oh yes,
nostalgic,
so simple, and like all that good stuff. So that's how that show worked. And I don't think that show still has a life. It's just much more challenging to mount because there's 7 people who need to make that show run and get paid. So
So question for you: you started off into this industry when you were fairly young. What age was that?
I was 10.
Okay, so when was first question? What was your first show?
Mm-hmm.
Where was your first show? And I assume you need some physical attributes or learning some skills to know that you could be good at it. What were some of those things?
So the first show was like a really short, it was like 15, 20 minutes. I was doing some juggling, I don't know if you recall, they're called flower sticks, where you bang one big stick with 2 smaller things, trying to tell some jokes. I imagine I really played up the cute factor at that point, because the show, I have a VHS tape of it, and I'm so thankful that there's no way anyone can watch it anymore.
Oh, we should get that.
I'd have to dig it up, but it is just awful. And but you're 10, right? You're figuring it out, and I started doing that street performing at the Forks at the time. So I had like one of those tape players that took 6 D batteries and lasted for 40 minutes if you were lucky, and put on some music and did that, and so that's where it all started. So that was kind of the it was Canada Day, actually. Canada Day in 1994 was the.
So you're in grade 10 years old. I assume you're in grade 4 approximately.
No, 5.
Leaving 4, going into 5 that summer, I think.
So you'd be cruise ages, around cruise age.
Well, Cruz is 10.
Yeah,
so you would be exactly Cruz's age.
Yeah. So which elementary school was that you were at?
Lower Secord.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny because he says the Forks. So people that don't know, the Forks is a place in Winnipeg that has a lot of street performances and busk stops. They call them, right?
It's an open air market. There's food, souvenir shops, vendors. It's kind of it is the meeting place in Winnipeg, and if you're a tourist, that's probably where you're going to end up.
So the first time I ever saw you was before I knew you. I saw you and Kim doing a performance at the Forks,
right,
in the main area inside.
Oh, that was during spring break,
right in front of the elevators there.
Yeah,
it was a high enough area that you guys could do your performance before they did all the renos and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing you guys there, and I'm like, man, these guys are like really like it's. I hate to compare it to Cirque du Soleil, because obviously Cirque du Soleil has a different kind of like vibe and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're very contemporary. As you say.
And it's just like, wow, like I can't imagine ever doing some of the things you do, right? Like the strength and the balance and everything that you guys do is phenomenal. But like your show caught my eye even back then before I even knew you. So
that's it's we try to make it a little more interactive. Like we really kind of keep those really positive parts of street performing, like that intimacy and like that approachability. Because a lot of people, like Cirque is amazing. They have incredible performers.
Yeah,
they're incredible shows. We often fantasize, like, if we had an unlimited budget, what could we produce? And that's what they do.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of times where people go to Cirque and go, "Oh, those acrobats were amazing, but what the hell was going on?"
What was the whole
time? Yeah. And then when you read the stories after, you're like, okay, I can kind of see that, but we're just much more direct, So it's.
What if you sold your Throwback show to Cirque and made it a huge production?
It would be pretty wild. I think would have a few growing pains to get through before it hit that level. But we have been pitching it to a few, like there's showcases and then things like that. And just the biggest issue with that, we had an opportunity to present it in Australia as well. But the biggest issue with that, again, is just cost, right? It's just, and unless, like, when it comes to us, like Kim and I, we're willing to take a risk when it comes to producing stuff, because nobody will. If we believe in a project, nobody will get hurt except for us financially, But you have 5 people plus the 2 of us, and you're like, okay, you got to, we're at the stage in our careers now. It's like you got to pay your contemporaries.
Yeah.
If we're producing something, like, not to be crass or in ill form, but to put it into numbers, like we were looking at, without the marketing budget I wanted, we were looking at like $65,000 to $75,000 minimum to present in Australia,
to present it,
just to get it there.
Yeah, because
And
one of your performances from Australia, right?
Yeah, so
Or that show?
we had some ins that way, but like, and if I had the marketing budget I wanted, we'd be into the six figures.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you have a group that goes. You said your wife, yourself, and 5 other people. Is that in the crew
In
you
that
bring
show.
down
In that
to the
show, yeah.
So we talked finances
Mhm.
and how much it costs to bring some of these shows to bear, whatever it is,
Yep.
wherever. So have you found over the 30 years that you've been in the business, you've been able to make a decent or comfortable income with your show?
Well, the great thing about this job is that, number one, it's way too hard to do if you don't actually really love it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of it that's really
taxing.
challenging. It's very taxing.
Yeah.
And number two, it will give you what you give it. So again, that kind of goes back to my fitting with my whole assing, approach. It's like the short answer is yes. Through Circus, I was able to purchase my first house at 21. We live in a like LCOL city, but still, it's I've never needed to have any other job or any other sources of income.
Yeah. You lived through COVID.
Yeah, and that was
right.
We made it through. Didn't have to touch too much of our savings. We obviously were entitled to a lot of the benefits that were being offered as well, which we were very thankful for.
Yep.
But it was really funny actually when you had to, because when you applied for those benefits, you had to fill out, it's like, what do you do? I'm like, I need 2 things to do my job. Number 1, international travel. Number 2, large amounts of people enclosed in one space. Not the greatest combination for these couple of years. And so nobody ever asked us like anything. So, but I didn't feel bad at all about that. It's like, that was literally for us, and it's whatever.
I heard a few comedians say the joke. The one thing I learned during COVID was my job was not essential.
Yeah. But it's funny though, if you think about it too, like a lot of it was essential. Like imagine getting through COVID with no Netflix or no Disney Plus or no writers. It's just the live entertainment part really suffered because obviously nothing happened live. And again, we were talking earlier about streaming. It's like porting some of these live stuff to a digital format. We did that, but it's not quite the same. And it's like, okay, it's like
then you got to produce it.
Yeah,
you have to get
there's a certain magic too that happens when things are.
Well, we like you said, when we watched the show at the gas station theater, like we're in the first row and we're seeing these things. There's for live theater or music or whatever it is, to be there having it in front of you live, there's just a different aspect, because you can see that same thing online, YouTube, a concert. It's totally different. Right?
The cool thing about being front row at that theater, because it was such an intimate theater too, is that I could see Dan off scene. Pulling that rope.
Doing the pulls. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And I'm watching him because he just did something on stage and now he's off stage pulling this rope. And I'm like, holy smokes. Like, you are just like,
I can see the veins in it.
Yeah, that was that was a tough transition. Like, gloves on.
And I'm like, wow, he's just going. And it was fantastic. The second hardest question I got to ask you then is, what is something other than what we've talked about so far that somebody doesn't know about Dan Craig?
Somebody doesn't know. Well, most people wouldn't assume that we both are big gamers. I kind of went over that. Something that you don't know.
That you're not Bond.
I'm not Bond actor.
As
far as you know.
As far as I know, yeah. I wouldn't know, I guess, if he was.
I'll have to. Man, that is really challenging.
We'll come back to it.
Yeah, we should come back to that.
Come back to that.
Rattle around, because I know we'll be talking about something about like, oh, here's something you don't know.
Some weeks later, I thought you had something right now. So let's talk a little bit about the places that you frequent as far as your performances. So you do cruise ships.
Yep.
You do festivals. You do, I guess, separate standalone as far as like. What do you call it? Venues,
theaters,
show, kind of theaters,
corporate events,
those kinds of things. What's your kind of how much time? First of all, how much time do you spend on cruise ships? I'm interested in that.
Cruise ships probably take about a quarter to a third of our year, probably like 10 to 15 weeks on the average year. So those are really nice because the workload isn't super taxing. Like you'll be doing 4 to 6 shows a week usually. Sometimes it can be, like we just finished a run of ships where we did 30 shows in 11 days.
Oh wow!
So it really, you never really know till you get there. But The good thing about cruise ships that for both of us is because we're responsible for everything else that happens.
Yeah.
It's like they're like, here's your flight, here's when you board, you don't have to think about anything.
They book
okay,
all
I
of
go
it.
do show now. You know, it's
What's
just
my itinerary and when do I have to be on stage?
Exactly. So that's really nice. You know, it's a really fun. People are on vacation. They're already primed to have a good time. It's like really just easy, really sweet audiences. And that's actually one of the big things that happened because of the Japan thing is that there's a lot of ships that sail out of Japan that have half Australian, half Japanese passengers.
Yeah.
So they send us there a lot because they need acts that can do the show simultaneously in English and Japanese.
And you've learned that skill for
So
that's fantastic.
We're actually doing that next week. So that's where we're heading back to Japan.
Awesome, that's great.
And then corporate events. So like as an example, or corporate fundraisers, we've done a lot of work locally with St. Boniface Children's Hospital, Variety Manitoba.
Yeah.
You know, all kinds of stuff like that. And then, you know, like video shelving, like all these big companies that have their Christmas thing want entertainment, like we do that. We also produce events, like we produce all the live entertainment performance related at things like Boo at the Zoo, or Assiniboine Park Conservatory. And then, festivals, theaters, circuses, basically whatever we can get our filthy little circuit hands on.
What is your favorite performance to do? Like, so you got cruises, corporate events, street performance, theaters. What's your favorite one to do? If you could do just one for the rest of your life.
That is an impossible question. Okay, so
and you don't have to answer for Kim because she might have a totally different answer.
I think honestly, if I had to choose one for the rest of my life, there's something really magic about doing like those street performance style festivals.
Right, yeah.
Because I really love a little bit of chaos where like anything can happen and you've got to adapt on the fly.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just that not unfocused, but that it's not a controlled environment. So it's up to you to control the environment.
Right.
And
you don't know who's going to be around.
Yeah.
You.
And it's also, and I think this would be very beneficial for a lot of industries around the world, those festivals where you are still earning a living by passing your hat, you get paid exactly what you're worth. If your show is good, you get paid well. If your show is not so great, that'll also be reflected. Wouldn't that be great if that was just how it was for everybody?
Well, that's how our show works. We get paid what we're worth.
That's unfortunate. We don't get paid anything.
Not yet. Not
yet. You're right. So going back, and I agree with you. Like what you're saying is on the street level, you're having to ad lib because instead of having a script, this is what you do. This is what you say. This is when you say it. You're having to ad lib, and you might add things, take away things based on how it is.
Yeah.
Do you do a lot of crowd interaction?
Tons.
Yeah.
Our show is lots of crowd. Well, in any venue. Same on the cruise ships. Like they're not used to that style of performance. It's very, it's very.
You do crowd interaction on the cruise ship.
Yeah, you would do something. I've seen that. Yeah, I can see how we do that. I mean, not when he's on certain things, but you would if he's on the ground.
Well, we've seen I've been on a few cruise ships where there's performances. Like the magicians and the hypnotists. Yes, they do crowd interaction because they have to bring people up and everything. Yeah. But like for your performance, you could literally do your whole performance and not interact with the crowd because it's if you wanted to.
You could, theoretically.
If you wanted to. Like if you were a antisocial, non-crowd person, you could literally just block out the crowd and do your whole show. The fact that you guys do interact with the crowd probably makes your show a whole different environment.
It's fun. And like we when they open the theater, and this is generally for ships especially, we go out half an hour beforehand and like introduce ourselves to people as they come in the theater, like crack joke, like usher them to their seats and just take them in like these horrible ways and like make fake drink orders for them. And so that by the time the show starts, they already like you, right? So they already know that you're like, they kind of know your personality, so you don't have to win them over.
Yeah. Do they know that it's you that's on the...
I mean, they figure it out pretty quick, but like they're, oh, you in the show? I'm like, I can neither confirm nor deny, but maybe we'll see. We'll see what happens, and just make jokes and get, be like, oh, somebody's sitting in a seat, somebody sits down, and I'll be like, oh, this seat is a VIP seat that comes with a free massage from the guy behind you. Get to it, dude! Like it's just I don't know, making up stuff like that. That's just an example that happened last. I don't know, just random stuff. And
It's too bad that's not just a job, because I would love to do that job.
To give people
fake usher.
See, fake
Well,
usher.
giving people massages.
No, fake ushering. I'm not a
Okay.
massage.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want me.
I love to do like one of my favorite ones is like, oh, where would you like to sit? They're like, oh, row 4. So you take them down to row 7, then you just cross each aisle and do like a big snake to get them to their seat. Like, okay, oh, excuse me,
pardon me.
Okay, down here. Okay, excuse me.
I don't know if you've ever, like, obviously you've been on ships, but if you ever tried to get around some people and just go past them, some people get very annoyed. Anyway.
Well, because some of the people are like 95 years old.
They'll have like 3 drinks. It's like, how dare you come across us to the middle of the
love
road?
pushing those people even a little more. It's like,
I agree with that.
Loosen up a little bit.
Go.
If we were to stay on the vein of cruise ships for a little bit,
Tim loves cruise ships.
So we took a cruise earlier this year, and the first 3 days we were like, yeah, we're just going everywhere. Okay, so you're on whatever things you have up on stage, and the ship is going at it, and it's back and forth. Do you find that more challenging? How is that?
Oh, it's terrible. It's horrifying.
More challenging.
Yeah. But it's like, and you know, if it gets...
Do they bump the show sometimes?
I mean, they have, not for us.
No.
You guys are on your own.
I'm just like, whatever. It's
when you're in that wheel, it doesn't matter if you're going left or right.
Oh, you feel it. It's you know, we just tell the people, we're like, listen, the reality of performing this on a ship is like, this is all about balance.
Yeah.
So there's a non-zero chance that I'm going to make a mistake, or I'm going to need to try something more than once. If that happens, I'm going to ask for your forgiveness in advance. Obviously, I'm just going to do the best I can. We all feel this. We cool with that, and everyone's usually very forgiving, because like a lot of these people, like you said, are a little older and can't even walk in a straight line.
You've got that line memorized.
Yeah, exactly.
You did that line like you said it a few times.
I have said it a few times, but yeah. The other thing is too, especially when you're throwing, like when you send Kim up, it's like, you know, if it goes up really easy, you're like, uh-oh, because in a moment it's gonna be like, it's like, you know, it's gonna come down really hard, so you can kind of feel it anyway. Whatever.
And she could probably feel it too.
Oh yeah. But as we always say, like, okay, when the ship is moving, it just means the show's going to be as exciting for us as it is for you. So let's do this.
That's awesome.
So when another question about cruise ships, just stay on there for a little bit, but it's a whole different culture. I find people go, they work there with their spouses, they're with their families, and it's almost like a subculture on the ship, I find.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
Do you have any insider secrets about life backstage, people that are not passengers, but they're in the paid crew / entertainment? Anything, any stories that we might find interesting, life behind the curtain, that we'll call it, on a cruise ship?
I mean, yeah, I'll tell you right now is that your stage crew are some of the hardest working people on the boats. Like, they're always installing new shows. They're always taking down new shows. There'll be people in the theater 18 hours a day, just
practicing,
working on stuff. Yeah. We've worked with Royal Caribbean, and we've worked mostly lately with Princess, and we really, Princess does a very good job with their entertainment department. They're very, very nice to work for a company of their size. Crazy stories. I mean, like that, nothing aside from like regular cast drama. There was a time where, we're insulated from it a little bit because we don't work with any of them directly, but we do know a lot.
You're
of
your
people.
own show.
But like, there's always cast drama where it's like somebody's dating somebody else and they break up mid-contract, but they still have to dance together in the show. And then they break up, and then the guy goes on shore and then like shotgun marries somebody else in the show. And so now they all
kind of story I'm looking for.
Yeah, like that actually happened. There's a couple in the show. They split up, but they still had to dance together in the show. Then the guy got off in port one day and shotgun married another dancer in the show. So it's just like stuff like that happens. It's not as crazy as like 10 things about cruise ships that'll shock you. It's not as crazy as that as that makes it sound, but stuff like that does happen once in a while. It's pretty funny. You
say you're insulated from the other group. You guys all stay in the same kind of quarters, I would assume, right?
Yeah.
You and your wife get your own space.
Yeah, they give us a really nice cabin. We have a nice cabin. It's in a crew area, but it's like an officer cabin, so it's fairly big. And we kind of have the best of both worlds because we're contractors, but we're not crew, so we don't have to do like any of the safety drills or anything like that. We have a passenger account, so like we have the same account that anyone else gets on the ship who's a passenger,
Yep.
and we can do anything. Like when we're not performing, it's like you can
walk around.
You don't need to wear a name tag or anything like that. You're just a regular schlub. So yeah, it's great.
I guess that's a benefit, right? You don't have to wear the name tag. You don't have to wear the uniform. Yeah. You're literally just
don't have to follow dress code too. Like
you're a contracted passenger, essentially.
That's exactly it. You're a passenger who does this job, and then
you obviously have to conduct yourself in a professional manner of some sort.
Yeah, of course. They always say like passengers come first. So like, and obviously we're very diplomatic and
me and some friends of ours. Well, we went on a cruise ship and the comedian was really, really bad.
Okay.
But we went to his show and it was really bad the first time we went. The problem that he had was that he had the same show every day.
So it was always bad.
So it was always like he never deviated from his show.
So you see this a lot too. Like it's just sometimes people just don't know how to read a room, or honestly, sometimes what happens is you get on board and you don't know your schedule until you get on the first day.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So he might have talked with his agent, and his agent said, "Oh, you're going to do one 45-minute set," and then he got on board, and they're like, "Oh, we need you to do 3," and he's like, "Well, I don't have the material for that." You know what I mean? Like a million of those things can happen, but
I think the biggest thing. Have you seen Matt Rife?
Yes.
How he does his crowd interactions.
He's very good at
He's
crowd work.
Literally grown on crowd work alone, right?
Yeah, for sure.
As soon as you're a comedian, I think that's one of your biggest things. Is if you do crowd work, like you said, you can work your crowd.
Yeah.
You can get accepted very quickly. Yeah. Whereas if you don't do crowd work and you're literally just a robot up there reading off jokes.
Yeah, you can't autopilot it. Like people can tell when you're phoning it in or when you're autopiloting. When you're on stage, you should be the most authentic version of yourself.
Yeah.
Because people can smell a liar. Like even if it's about that kind of stuff. So
it's funny you said that because the same thing happened for us on our cruise that we just took. One of the comedians was terrible.
Okay.
And all of a sudden and they said some of the same things. They on stage are like, we just misread the contract. She literally said that. And like it was kind of strange.
Yeah.
But same scenario. But you're right. If you can read a room, when you have nothing, and there's periods of time where you have, I assume as a comedian, everything is done and dead.
Yeah.
If you interact with the room, you can kind of wing it.
Yeah. But also that's your job. Like if the room is dead, then either do one of two things.
Yeah.
Fix it or leave. Like that's your job.
Yeah.
But it's funny because we do get to deal with passengers. It's nice those first few days before you do your show and nobody knows who you are, so you can just like go to the gym and train and like. But then after the show, it's like people want to talk to you, and that's I love talking to people. They're always very nice.
Yeah.
But it's just like some people come and just say the strangest stuff to you, and you're like. And you have to be nice. It's like, I don't know, a lot. When we get a lot, it's like, oh yeah, if you guys are fighting before a show, do you ever just take your wife and drop her? I'm like, I don't know. Do you just like punch your wife in the face? Like, no, of course not.
I had this visual when you said if you're not good, just leave of this comedian just going to the edge of the ship and doing a run dying.
I regret nothing.
I'm leaving.
Actually, just to jump in, I had this great interaction on one of the last ships we did. Is we finished the show. We'd had a really great show when you can feel it, the audience is feeling it, and you can feel the difference when you're really in the zone.
Yeah.
And so I was doing laundry, doing a passenger laundry in the passenger little laundromat there. And this lady comes in, I move my washing for her, and then I leave and I come back and she's there moving her drying. She's like, I didn't recognize you earlier, but you did the show a couple of days ago. I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, great show. I was like, thank you. She's like, you're a lot less handsome up close. And it's like, thank you. Thank you. That's great.
That seems like not the thing I would go with. If I was...
There's another one, and this happened a little while ago too. This guy comes up to us after the show.
We should do a close up for that story, like really close up.
Yeah. This guy comes up, and it's Kim and I. We're just together, and he's like, "Oh, great show there." And I'm like, "Hey, thanks a lot. Thanks for coming. You guys made our job real easy." Blah blah blah. And he's like, "Yeah, when she walks out, you can see in her shoulders like muscles, and she walks out and something's going to happen." We're like, yeah, she's jacked, she's super strong. Yeah, thanks for noticing. And he turns to me and he goes, "And you don't look like you can do anything." And then you walk out there. It was a surprise. I'm like, Thank you.
You surprised us all.
That's pretty much my default. Like,
You actually
sad,
won.
like, you don't look like you do anything. Okay.
So
You should get like sad music on your phone
Bum, 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 bum.
that just like plays every time.
so that transitions into a question I had for you. It's perfect timing. So your wife is in great shape. You look like you're in great shape too. But as you get older, I mean, now you said you're turning in the 40s next week.
Yep.
Do you find because your show is so physical, and because you're on the road either through cruise ships where you have all you can eat menus,
right,
and there's not a lot of time to work out. By the way, working out on a treadmill is very difficult on a cruise ship.
Stick to the bike.
Yeah. And then also even on the road, you don't have a lot of time. Do you find it more challenging to stay in shape for something that you have to be more physical for?
I mean, you know, as you get older, the reality is, it is more challenging to stay in shape. But we train hard. Like, we train harder than we perform in the show. That when we go do a show, is it difficult? Yes, but if you're lifting 1.5 times what I have to lift when it comes to Kim, or if you're doing, 35 minutes on an assault bike or whatever, you try to train harder than you work in the show.
Yeah.
And, it just takes a lot more like prehab, rehab, rolling, stretching, all that kind of stuff. And the answer, I assume the next question is how long? Because that's, people always ask how long. And the answer is not sure yet. I still feel like I've got at least a solid 8 to 10 years. Like, COVID was tough because you go from doing 200 shows a year to 2.
Yeah.
So like, you
kind of lost 2 years there. Right?
Yeah. And not only that, but then, your health also, you can't train, you can't go to the gym. So we had to, as we all did, I lost a bit of my fitness there, but it came back quickly. And, the long answer is, the short answer is, I think, again, 8 to 10 years of solid performing, and then either A, start producing more events, or B, get funnier and do less.
do less of the heavy lifting and get funnier. Your show's pretty funny to begin with. I think
I do appreciate that. Thank you.
You do have a good comedic aspect to it, which, a lot of the times you need to have that because that's what keeps people's attention these days, right?
Yeah.
With the small attention span.
And it really, ultimately on stage, it's like, what you do is meaningful, but it's who you are that's important.
Yeah.
Like, if people
I like that quote.
It's true. If people like you and you respect their time, like, that's one thing we actually say in a lot of our shows is like, this investment of 45 minutes that you gave us is not something that can ever be refunded. And like, on ships, a lot of you spent a lot of money to bring you and your families here. You worked hard your entire life and now you're enjoying the fruits of your labor. Or at a festival, it's like, you maybe didn't know that you were going to come down here today and see this, but like, you've given us the only non-renewable resource in your life.
Yeah.
So you're darn straight I'm going to make the most of it. Like, you have to respect that. So
it's funny that you mentioned that because the shows on our cruise, there's two things I would think to myself: A, how was their talent? How was their skill? Mm-hmm. And B, I really like that person.
Yeah,
right? They seemed authentic. If you ever have a musician or somebody who puts on a show, but they're just going through the motions.
Exactly.
They hit the right notes, but you know what? They didn't have a lot of personality. There's always that second thing.
And you can tell. Like, again, like we said earlier, you can tell when people are. When their heart isn't in it anymore. And like I said, it's too hard of a job to do if you don't really, really love it. It like, you die a little inside watching people that you're like, okay, well, kind of feels like you're running out the clock a little bit here,
Yeah.
Anyway.
So you're saying you think you have about 8 to 10 years left doing the hard performance part of it.
Yes.
And then getting more into the producing of shows?
Yeah,
like working with other talents, that type of thing?
Yeah, because then we can be involved in the performance as well, but then we don't have to carry the whole load. Or producing events, like, again, with, working with the Assiniboine Park the last 4 years that they started to run the booth, the zoo again. There's
motivational speaking.
Geez, yeah, maybe. I don't know if
I think that, like, I've heard you talk, and I've, like, before even interviewing here today, you're so passionate about what you do. I think that you could do a book, you could do a TED Talk on what you're doing, all this kind of stuff. This is why I wanted to bring you in here, is because I really appreciate your, not just personality, but your passion for what you do. Thank you.
And I'm glad that comes through. And there's your one thing that actually a lot of people may not know, or that I don't think I've ever actually really said this out loud to, I don't think anybody, but Kim is that even at this stage, 30 years in the game, where it's like you're at the point where I don't really have to prove anything anymore. It's like I'm doing the thing. It's good. The product, the shows are good. They keep getting better. We still train. It's like the imposter syndrome never goes away. It never goes away. And you're just like, sometimes you're just like, man, am I like, what am I doing? It never goes away. And I think that there's an inherent insecurity in working, like devoting your life to like creation, and you see other artists and what they're doing, and that guy's amazing. He's 28, and you're just like, okay, well, but what's the phrase? Comparison is the thief of joy, and you try to remember that you're there for a reason, and that this other person may have way more technical skills than you, but you have this experience, or like the crowd work is important. So I think that's one thing that it's like to anyone in a creative field, and in a lot of just non-creative fields as well, is I don't think if you really love the thing you're doing, that imposter syndrome ever goes away, because you always want to be better at it. If that makes any sense.
You care about it. So.
Yeah, it's not, I'm not going and I'm checking out of my accountant job at 5 p.m. Like if you're an accountant and you're watching this and you love it, that's great. But like numbers are not my strength, and it's like there's no leaving it behind.
Yeah,
there's no leaving it behind at 5 p.m. and going home and then flipping on the TV and sitting back. It's like there's always
work
to do. You can always market harder. You can always train harder. You can always research new markets. You can always search for more public funding through our arts councils. You can train in different places. Like again, it never ends, right? So I don't know. I think that's probably it, is the imposter syndrome. Like you think turning 40 would be over this, but here we are.
It never ends.
So speaking about imposter syndrome, I'm going to transition to a different topic here, away from cruises. Sorry, Tim. We're gonna move on from the cruises. I want to talk about your Guinness Book of World Records.
Sure.
Because when I heard that you were doing this, I was like, oh my goodness. I've seen you in that wheel. I don't know the exact number. What's the exact number of how long you were in the Cyr Wheel?
So I had to break the record, which was half an hour.
Okay.
And I spun in it without stopping for 40 minutes and 7 seconds.
Killed it.
So you broke the record and then smashed the time.
25%.
And the reason, honestly, I was like, I think I can go a little further, but harder than the Guinness record was the paperwork that Guinness makes you do to get a record.
That was literally one of the questions is how did you get?
We had to have like Sport Manitoba licensed timekeepers, 3 neutral witnesses, a member of like government or a lawyer. So we had Adrian Sala come in, who's in St. James, represents St. James. We just like knocked on a lawyer's office door beside our studio. We're like, hey, you want to do this next week? They're like, that sounds like fun. We never get asked to do fun stuff. So they came over. But the reason that I stopped at 40 minutes and 7 seconds was not because I had to stop, but because one of my witnesses had to leave.
So you could have been longer.
I could have, but...
So next year when someone has 40 minutes and you're going to be, why did that guy have to leave?
But also the rules for Guinness were very stringent. It's like you have to do the same pattern the whole time. You can't take a hand or foot off either.
Okay. Really? And part of your show is...
you can't. So you have to be spinning the entire time. And I couldn't even take a hand off to like...
So you have to have 4 points of contact all the time. 4 points of
contact all the time. So I was so nervous about just being, getting to like 22 minutes and then just being like, I was like overcompensating.
You gotta smoke.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I gotta light this up. Anyway, but I was
that would be a whole different record there.
Right? That would be most cigarettes smoked. Oh, no thanks.
Here, we'll do that next year.
Yeah, I'll leave. I'll let someone else do that one. But,
so 4 points of contact, same pattern.
I was so nervous about that is I was just death gripping the thing the whole time, and it actually makes it harder because like going on one hand or one foot is actually more difficult. But I was just so nervous that I was just like the whole time, and I stepped out, and I was stumbling over to get some water, and I couldn't undo my hands. I had to pick up a bottle of water between my wrists and be like,
because your
forearms
because they were just, it was like locked like this for like probably 30-45 seconds after it started.
Oh wow,
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was I don't recommend it. It was severely unpleasant. But yeah, it's just I didn't want to know where I was either. I told the people who were the witness and the timekeeper, I'm like, don't tell me where we are at time. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
And then I got to like I put on a bunch of music that I was training to.
Yeah.
So I kind of had like an idea of where I was at ish. And I was like, okay, where are we at? And they're like, do you actually want to know? And I said, just tell me my over or under. Did I break it? They're like, yes. I was like, okay, where am I at? They're like 34. I'm like, I want to hit 40.
Keep going.
Yeah. So, and one of them was like, I have to, because we had to film the whole thing. I was like, I have to leave. I have to go like referee a game. I'm like, give me 6
more minutes.
Like,
he was the accountant that had to leave at 5.
So anyway, long story short, yeah, very unpleasant, and I have to give credit because Kim did a lot of the front load of the paperwork and everything with Guinness. She also broke a world record on the same day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she broke a record for a hula hoop whilst in a handstand. And,
very cool. So you guys are both in the book.
They don't print all the records in the book.
No.
You can look hers up on the Guinness database online. Right. She has a certificate as well.
How long?
She did so the other thing about Guinness is when you submit your proposal, they have to approve the record.
Yeah.
They approved mine. She wanted to do the longest hula hoop around the foot whilst in a handstand, and they changed the language. It's like most rotations of a hula hoop while in a handstand in 30 seconds.
Okay.
So it was a time one. So they wanted a speed one for her. So she did like 92 or 82. I can't remember exactly the number.
In 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whilst in a handstand. But
and you have to drink a bottle of Guinness after you do the record,
that's
right?
Pretty much mandatory, right? Yeah. And just like
the history of the Guinness book is really cool. Have you heard the history of it?
Yeah, it was basically built as a bar trivia book.
Yeah.
So that people had things to talk about when they were out with
drinking Guinness.
Beer.
That's what you said, true?
No,
not
okay. I just had to clarify. I actually believed that was
you have to become a Guinness drinker after.
No, I literally took you seriously.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but the book is cool the way it was born.
Yeah. So she unfortunately did not get her picture in the book, but I did, and I would have happily swapped that because I know that she really wanted to get in there too, and if. Yeah.
So you're in the physical book?
I'm in the physical book, yeah.
Okay.
So
like next year's book, she couldn't be like they wouldn't put in different pictures every time?
When you finish the record, Guinness reaches out to you and sends you an email, says, hey, look, we got your video, we got the measurements, the documentation. Congratulations, you did it. You can post about it online now. Do you have any pictures that you could send along to us? And I guess also too, it's like, they wanted one with the wheel, I guess, so that they put it in. So, no, we both have the records, and that's
she fantastic. Broke the Guinness Book of Records for most paperwork done for 2 records in one day.
It was like a duotang. Like it was crazy the amount. It was harder to do the paperwork for to get that record than it was to apply for a passport. It's crazy. It's wild.
And you're not good with numbers, so that's why she's doing it.
Yeah. Oh, she's
the accountant.
Very good with numbers.
Is she the accountant in the show to make sure everything's balanced?
She is a tax genius as well. So, and she enjoys it for some reason. So, no, but
if you're good at it, you can make money.
Well, that's the thing too, is that one thing going back to what you said earlier about working with each other in close quarters, that we really understand and lean into each other's strengths, because where she is strong, I'm not, and in the places where I find I don't have difficulty, especially working with clients and dealing with more of the face-to-face stuff, she knows that I'm very comfortable with that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, we understand where and
your strengths.
Yeah, where our strengths are, and we're not saying that she's neither of us are incapable of doing it. Obviously, we worked solo prior to it, but it just helps.
You complement each other.
Yeah, we complement each other well, and it makes our lives a little easier.
Yeah, for sure. The question I have about after doing the Guinness book now you've accomplished that.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've accomplished this Guinness book. You're in the book. You can say that you're a record holder. What's next?
You
have a new record?
No, I'm gonna sit on that one for a while because it was. I will say though, back to your joke, the beer was delicious after the. Actually, no, I didn't have a beer right after. This is actually I did the record, then I had to go get an MRI right after. Unrelated to breaking the record, but anyway, that was not that exciting. But what's next? Yeah, I'm gonna sit on that for a while. I don't know that it's like.
Is there anything you guys could do together?
That's actually a really good question. We hadn't really thought about that too much. I think. Like I said, we'll probably let that sit for a little bit before thinking of something.
How about in general? Forget the Guinness Book of Records, which is awesome, by the way. We think this is fantastic. Not everybody has a chance to do that, and you've done that. Then congratulations.
Thank you.
But in general, like of the shows that you've done, and you've done so many years of collaborating different kinds of shows, different amount of people in each shows. But is there an idea that you haven't had a chance to do yet that's you've been thinking about, that it's a dream to do, that you just haven't been able to do it, whether it's cost related, whether it's people related, that you still kind of one day hope to do?
Yeah, I mean, like to scale the show that you guys saw up, to scale Throwback up, would be great. I would love the chance to do that. We really hit the ground like in the post-COVID world. Like we had to make up a lot of time. We're still in the middle of that. Recovery, really, ever since summer 2022. It's been pretty gangbusters. So, but I think this just regaining that stability a little bit. But yeah, Throwback would be great. Our studio is growing very quickly. We have kids to adult classes that's full every day.
Oh, really?
Of the week. Yeah, it's that's another project that is very near and dear to our hearts.
And that's run while you're gone.
Yes, we have two staff now. That we have a studio manager, and then we have like a social media coordinator as well, who also does some of the class scheduling and whatnot. But so that's another project, and again, event production. We'd like to bring a festival like the ones that are across Canada to Winnipeg at some point.
Yep.
In the not too distant future. Continue making inroads and working with our existing festivals. We're very close to the Winnipeg International Children's Festival, the Circus Magic Partnership, and the Festival of Fools, which was I think where you saw us at the Forks initially on spring break in March a long time ago. And we have a really unique position in that Circus didn't really exist in Manitoba prior to us. It did, but it wasn't organized
to that extent.
Canada's famous for circus. Everyone knows Cirque du Soleil. Everyone knows Montreal is, that's where it all started in the 80s. And now they're like one of the biggest live entertainment companies on the planet. But
they've taken over Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. There's 8 shows, 10 shows running at any given time.
Yeah.
And I think we have a really unique moment here where we can build really contribute to the landscape of what that art form is to our country, because our style and in Western Canada is very different than that contemporary Montreal style like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And it's challenging and it's frustrating, and building these things from the ground up comes with a whole host of things that are major pain in the butt, but it's a pretty unique position to be in, to kind of create a new artistic culture for a province or a region.
Yeah.
And I think that's a responsibility we don't really take lightly, and we really want to see it grow. There's no reason that Winnipeg and Manitoba, with the strong music and dance and theater and culture that we have, Manitobans love their stuff. They love their sports. They love their food. They love their theater. They love the folk festival. We see it. To be able to inject a new kind of culture into that is pretty cool. It's a pretty neat place to be, and I'm hoping that that's something we can do that doesn't have a shelf life.
That's awesome, and we need more people like you that have that kind of broader scope of trying to get things out there in Manitoba, and I really appreciate it. And we're almost done our interview, and we have some kind of less serious questions coming. Sure. But is it okay if I ask you one more serious?
You can ask anything you want.
So, so you've been doing this for a number of years. You're almost 40 years old. Happy birthday! We're not going to see you next year, or next week. Sorry. Yeah. You've chosen to not have kids.
Right.
Is that because of your travel schedule? Is that just a decision that you've made?
We're getting really personal.
Yeah. Why?
It would change a lot. It would change. The long story short is last night was the 5th or 6th night I've spent in my own house in this calendar year. We have 2 great nephews and 1 great niece that we get to spoil the heck out of. Actually, we had just a 3rd nephew was added to the family just a few weeks ago. So, we really do love getting to be the aunt and uncle that come and spoil the heck out of the kids and wind them up. And then like, oh, okay, diaper's full, back to mom. Like off you go.
And their parents can trust you when you throw them in the air.
Exactly. It's
Whereas when my uncle threw me in the air, my parents probably didn't like it.
That's actually very true. It's one thing we heard of one of family vacation is like, don't worry, he catches your Aunt Kimmy all the time. Like, it's fine. In another life, maybe, that timeline is kind of winding down, obviously. But again, we have kids in our life, and you don't have to have your own to be important in the life of one. Yeah, which is kind of what we've leaned into a bit. So yeah, we get to be the cool aunt and uncle, and like I said, we make really strong effort to go see them as often as we can. Kim is out of Winnipeg right now. She went to Cleveland to visit them this week, and then spend a bit of time with her mom in Chicago. This time off. So
she's from Chicago, right?
Yeah, she was born in Manhattan and then grew up in Chicago. Yeah.
She basically grew up in the Winnipeg of the United States, right?
That was one of the first things her dad said to me. One of the first times that we met, he goes, "Well, they call Chicago. Why don't we call Chicago the Winnipeg of the South instead of calling Winnipeg the Chicago of the North?" But I was like, "That's a good point." Anyway,
they're both a windy city, and they film a lot of movies here in Winnipeg. Yeah. That they base as Chicago, right?
Yeah. And there was one night we were walking around. We were, I think, after a Jets game or something. We were at the Yellow Dog and winding down with some friends, and then we were walking back to our Uber, and we passed a Chicago police car that was all made up and just parked there, but it obviously was like a car for filming.
For filming, yeah.
It was like, what the heck? Is like, well, obviously it's got the old like 1980s Chicago like Cochise.
And it's supposed to be pre-Chicago, pre-fire, right? Yeah. Like that's the buildings and the exchanges, like
that
pre-Chicago fire. Yeah. So they can't really film them in Chicago because they don't have the same architecture since the fire. I think.
No idea, but yeah, probably something along those lines.
Tim loves Chicago. I love
Chicago. There. Cleveland, not as much. So I understand why you didn't go there.
Every place is good for its own reasons.
I agree.
I got to get.
Chicago's pretty special. Chicago.
I love Chicago. Yeah.
I got to get to the. I got to get to.
I've invited him many times. He just.
I don't want to go with Tim.
Oh, okay.
So
the United Center is an electric place to watch a hockey game.
Is it?
Oh, it's so fun.
That would be fun to go to too.
Yeah,
especially when they're like good, right? Like
I watched the Jets and Chicago play just after Christmas. Watched the Jets and their only loss to the Central in that like 8-week span.
Oh.
We were there. We were there the second. Remember the first game that we played 2.0 was against Montreal at home.
Yeah,
lost 5-1.
Yeah.
Antropov scored the only goal.
Yeah,
we went with a bunch of guys to game 2.
I was there as well.
You were there.
I was there. Yeah.
And I remember the first 2 goals were scored by who was it? Slater.
Oh, Slater.
And I had no idea who Slater was, and he's scoring. It's 2-0. I was like, who is Slater? AC Slater?
Yeah.
Who is? Oh, Jim Slater.
Jim Slater.
Jim.
And
I of the GST line.
Being up 2-0 too, and I was just like in my section, like, let's go. And then of course the
first win in 2.0 history, we were all pumped, and then
it all fell apart.
Yeah. So
and then for people that don't know, Dan actually joined me. Was it year 5? Year 5 or year 6?
Yeah, it was I think 5.
5 as a season ticket holder. Yeah. So Dan has the best chants that aren't real chants. So like
it's just nonsense.
Like Brandon Tanev, what's his
Rocket Skate.
Rocket Skate.
Hot Shot Sherratt. That was another one. Rocket Skate.
We have a one for Pionk.
Oh, Pionk, the donkey noise, because his name.
You just do the donkey noise. Yeah, he literally does a donkey noise when he yells out Pionk's name. But there's always something a little strange coming out of Dan, and I love going to games when he's there beside me. It's
I said earlier, again, IQ is just into the single digits at chess games. It's great. I was just like,
the question is, you come up with this off the cuff?
Oh,
it's all
research.
It's all. I'm going to
it's all
this game. What are the chants?
And then some of it sticks, and I'm like, oh, not my best effort.
The one that sticks is the more I see, the more I like with Morrissey.
Oh yeah. That's a couple of this. I was at the game too, and I was like. I was yelling stuff like, Healers, how are you so handsome? Like, I don't know. Captain Handsome too, the Blake Wheeler days. And The more I see, the more like I forgot about that one. That was good. It's like, Makar, you're named after a stupid vegetable. That was another one, I think.
Kale Makar.
Yeah,
it's not even a real vegetable.
I don't know.
Kale is a man-made vegetable. I just heard that yesterday. Actually,
I did not know that.
Broccoli is a man-made vegetable.
Did not know that.
Broccoli is derived from cabbage.
I had no idea.
And it's a man-made vegetable. It's not a naturally occurring vegetable.
I think he's making this up.
Entertaining and informative.
Yeah.
There you go. We all learned something.
I'm not willing to accept it on face value. All right, here's the fun stuff. Before he gets to the questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you're in Winnipeg,
yes.
What are the top 3 places to take your wife on a date?
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. If we're going somewhere kind of a little bit nicer, like we recently went to Oxbow in South Osborne. Super, super wonderful. Great organic wine selection. If you like wines, really interesting foods. We love, on the way back from our studio to our house is One Great City Brewing.
Okay.
Fantastic food. You don't even need to like beer. The kitchen is amazing.
Okay.
But on Thursdays, they also do like a small cask of some kind of interesting beer. They modify one of their beers and put like a slice of tiramisu in it or something weird. And it sometimes it's a swing and a miss, and sometimes you're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever tasted. And then after that 22 liters is gone, it's gone. So on Thursdays, we will sometimes drop by there. So that's a little more casual. And then close to our house, we love Langside Grocery, which is on the corner of Langside and Sarah. It was an old grocery store in like post-World War II, and then it was used as a film set. And then it was purchased and turned into like a nice little like resto bar with some like nice little nibbles. Yeah, I'd say those are my top 3.
Awesome. That wasn't on my question list. I need some ideas for tonight. So
there you go. Oxbow if you can. Oxbow is great if you can.
Langside, actually, I just heard this week from my daughter. So
yeah, Langside Grocery is great. Yeah. Excellent cocktails and really nice food. Not like a place where you go for a full meal, but a couple nice small plates and
awesome.
Cool. Yeah. So our last segment of our show, we do this with all of our guests. It's called This or That.
Okay.
Basically, what we do is we give you 2 options, and one of them you basically will never be able to have again in your life, and one of them is the only one you can have.
Gotcha.
Okay. So you can answer with just the answer, or you can expand on the answer if you want to explain why. So we give you full. Carte blanche? Is that what it's called? Carte blanche on this. So, and I think that you might want to expand on a couple of them, but we'll see how it goes here.
You can choose to expand or not.
We start with the ever popular Apple or Android.
Android. I have a very intentionally Apple-free household.
Yes.
Wow. YouTube or Twitch?
Twitch. I'm biased. Sorry.
Yeah. Solo, duo, or group shows?
Ooh, I'd say if I had to choose one, I would choose the one with Kim, the duo, because that's the majority of our work, and I would say it's...
You can live without all the other ones.
100%.
Duo would be amazing.
Not even a question.
I think we might have this answer already, but Japan or cruise ships?
Japan.
Yeah. Europe or Caribbean?
Europe. Not even close.
No?
I don't like heat, and I don't like beaches. I would take -30 over +30 any day of the week.
Wow.
Yeah. Side note, I'll just tell a little anecdote. A friend of mine was working for Kimpton Hotels. He was a fantastic bartender in Chicago, and he ended up representing a bunch of the Kimpton brand hotels. And so they would fly him around to curate their bar menus in their resorts. So we were working on a ship that was docked in the Cayman Islands, and he was coincidentally working at one of the resorts there. So he's like, walk down. We'll meet to have a lunch and, we'll be able to chat. And I was like, great. It was about a 1.5 kilometer walk, which is no big deal, but most of it was on the beach and it was like 33 degrees outside. So I've got shorts on and I'm wearing it's like a dry fit shirt and it's got a Jets logo on it. And so I'm just like, but 10 seconds, I'm like, I hate everything about it. I'm sweating. I'm hot. There's sand all over. I'm so angry. And I get to the hotel and, I walk up to the front, and this very nice, very hospitable guy's like, "Oh, hello, can I help you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm looking for John, my bar manager." He's like, "Oh yeah, go get him for you." And, "Oh, you're a Jets fan?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're from Winnipeg?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, I'm from Calgary." I'm like, "Great." He's like, "I bet you're glad to be here." I'm like, "I hate everything about this. I would rather be shoveling my driveway right now than picking the sand out of my socks at the end of the day. So please, I just want to see my friend." He's like, okay.
Sheepishly leaves with that sad music that you put on your phone.
So you didn't have something we didn't know about you before, so now we do.
There you go. Yeah. I would rather shovel a driveway than sit on a beach.
Yeah, there you go.
Can't do it.
Done.
Sorry.
Sushi or steak?
Sushi.
Instagram or TikTok?
Insta.
If you had the choice to do this, only this for the rest of your life, climb a mountain or lay on a beach. We're going to go with
We're
climb.
gonna go climb a mountain.
Climb a
Yeah, 100%. My butt would look so good. I think I just sit there and get sunburned. Come on.
Video games or movies?
Video games. Actually, the last movie I saw in theater, I was dragged to, and I didn't want to go. Because I don't have a lot of time to absorb media.
Yeah.
And when I do, I like to watch. I'm a sports fan, but I will always choose games. The last movie I saw in a theater was Inception.
Oh, that's a while ago.
And the last movie I saw in a theater before that was Titanic.
Oh, wow.
Wow. That's
You're probably dragged to that one too.
Yes, I was, I think, 15, and yeah.
You were on a date?
15 boys don't go to Titanic necessarily.
I'm like, sure thing.
I saw Titanic. Funny thing about me, I saw it 3 times in the theater.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Anyway,
we won't let go.
We'll get that story later.
Let go.
if you were to have a cheat day on food, pizza or pasta?
Ooh. If I have to choose one of the two, I'd probably choose. I'm assuming having just.
You can only have one or the other for the rest of your life.
No, it's got to be pizza, I think. Yeah.
Really? Wow. Costume changes or one outfit for the whole show?
Having done both, one is way easier.
Yeah.
But I also sweat profusely, and I'm disgusting by the end of the show. So no, one costume. That's what we usually do. Yeah.
Theater or street?
This is tough. I think I answered this a little bit earlier, though. I just like the unpredictability and chaos of the street a little bit. There's something just so real about it, too. Like, it's a very authentic experience.
Yep.
And I think it's really fun to not disrupt, but to have something happen in people's existence that maybe they weren't expecting that is really positive.
Yeah.
Just that there's something about that that's just really fun and really
unpredictable.
Wonderful. Like, just this thing that just happens, and then in this utilitarian space, there's magic for a moment, and then 40 minutes later, it just disappears, and then it's just a road again. You know what I mean? Like, there's something really fun and really kind of beautiful about that. A lesson in impermanence, maybe. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's kind of nice.
Cool. Reading or listening to music?
Music.
Camping or hotels?
Hotels with a capital H, baby. Side note about that too. My family liked to go camping, but we didn't take many vacations as a kid. My parents were pretty, we didn't have a ton of cash, so like we would go camping. And I remember the last time that we went camping, I as a young Wolseleyite boy does, started a protest at my house. I had a sign that said, "Egad, bad dad, no camping," and it was just like, I do not like. I love nature. I love nature. I love being in nature. I just don't like it touching me so much.
Or sleeping in it.
Yeah, or sleeping in it, exactly.
There's an old joke that a comedian said that if it's so great camping, why do all the bugs want to come inside?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So my last two are the controversial this or that.
Okay.
The first one is Chicago or Winnipeg.
Oh, I love big cities. I think, though, at this point, Chicago, if we were taking present day, today, like if you said you have to choose today and that's it.
Yep.
The Chicago that I spent a lot of time in, a lot of those people have moved on. Like they're it's not the same community that was there.
Are you asking to live or to visit?
No, this is like you have to pick one or the other.
To live for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think in the time that we spent there, like if I could capture that bubble of like 28 to 32, maybe 27 to 32 in Chicago.
Yep.
If I could live in that time, that would probably be Chicago, because it was such a wonderful community of artists and people. And Kim's family was all still close by at that time too.
Oh, okay.
Now it's just her mom in Chicago. If I could capture that time, the answer would be Chicago. But if you had said today is it, I would probably flip a coin, honestly.
Yeah?
I probably would have to flip a coin.
That's why it's a controversial.
And then just have to be fine with the answer.
My last one, I know the answer to this question.
Okay.
Because it is controversial as well, but I already know the answer because you're going to say it instantly.
Okay.
Air Canada or WestJet?
Air Canada, come on. I took 140 flights on Air Canada, 145 flights on Air Canada last year, and
one flight on WestJet.
I took one flight on WestJet, and then they lost my Cyr Wheel, which is still gone, and I think it's going to be gone forever now.
I still feel for you on that one.
That is a real bummer, because again, like, not, like, I understand that stuff like that, luggage gets delayed, whatever, but it's it was lost on March 7th.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's coming back.
Yeah.
I think it's sitting in some corner of Pearson somewhere.
How big of a package is it?
So it's actually shrink wrapped. And then it has my name and email on the outside, and then it's about just shy of a meter long, and it's shrink wrapped because it's an odd piece of luggage.
Yeah.
So quite often,
does it come in half?
It breaks apart into 5 pieces.
Oh, okay.
Quite often, customs, immigration, they want to know what it is.
Yep.
So we made a couple bags for it, and the bags would get destroyed because it's super heavy, and also because customs would just cut the bags open. They made a couple bags out of canvas and denim, and they would just cut it open. So I was like, okay, so we just shrink wrap it now, and I have my name on outside on a sticker, and it's just it's pretty big. It's like 47 pounds.
Yeah,
it's like a giant metal banana.
Has anybody from WestJet reached out to you?
I've escalated as high as I can in the WestJet hierarchy of customer service.
Yeah.
And they monitor these things for 180 days.
Okay.
At this point. So it was a direct flight from Toronto to Winnipeg. I loaded it onto the belt myself after tagging it.
So you loaded it in Toronto to Winnipeg as a direct flight.
Yes. And
it's still somewhere.
I don't know where it is. And I'm like, because we travel so much, we went to both airports, and we went through, like, we were on our way to
you've been back to Toronto.
Yeah, we were on our way to Denmark. We had a 4.5 hour layover. So I'm like, screw this. I'm going to exit the secure area. I'm going to go to leave Terminal 1, go to Terminal 3.
Yep.
Go down to baggage, and then, like, just be like, let me look. Like, because there's, like, lost, like, luggage where the tags get lost. They all get put somewhere. And I like scoured the terminal. They didn't find anything. I've got a friend she's a flight attendant for WestJet. She was like, listen, this is a big ask, but, like, next time you're on duty, like, can you go down in uniform and go to any other areas? And she's like, I got you. And we know all the Air Canada staff in Winnipeg exceptionally well. So I literally sent them an email, and I was like, hey, Paula, can you go down? Like, and it's not a big airport. It's not a big station.
No,
right?
Winnipeg's not.
So they just went down and told the WestJet folks what was going on, and WestJet let them look all over it. So nobody knows where it is. I don't think it's ever coming back, and it's a big bummer because that was the original one.
Yeah.
And I got a new one, but it's just a little different. It's it's the same size. So it'll be fine, but you can just feel it's just a little different.
Yeah. So if anybody is listening, help them out.
And you happen to see a Cyr Wheel kicking around the side of a warehouse in, I guess, probably at Calgary at this point, because all lost luggage for WestJet goes to their headquarters in Calgary.
Okay, and you've checked with Calgary. Do you go to Calgary?
No, often? But I sent, I haven't flown through Calgary in a while, but I sent a friend of mine who was leaving from Calgary. She went and checked in. And so, no dice. No dice. Very sad. It's like a musician's guitar. Like, you can get another guitar.
Yeah, but you've worked it in.
It'll never be the same one.
And sentimental value as well.
Very, very sentimental. Yeah. So.
Awesome. So what I want to give you the opportunity to do is, if you had one piece of advice to give to anybody that's getting into the performance arts or performance area of their lives, and they're 10-year-old Dan,
right?
What would you give them as that piece of advice?
Well, I don't know that I'm qualified to give anyone advice on anything.
You are. Look at you.
I don't know. Maybe I think that there's probably other people who say better things, but I think just like, doing what you love is hard. It's not easy. And you really have to make sure that balance you keep that balance in your life. Again, going back to that imposter syndrome and everything, but at this point, and living the life that I have, we've done thousands of shows. We've been to 65 countries. Yeah. We presented our show in 5 languages at this point. It's like I wouldn't trade any of it for the world. And, there are some very big challenges working, especially as a creative, for yourself, and basically, like I said earlier, it's up to you. You will get back what you give. but it is hard.
Awesome.
And don't be afraid to, get through those hard years at the beginning. Like, push through, you'll get through it. And just be authentic to yourself. Again, it's not what you do on stage, it's who you are. That's what makes it important.
Awesome. Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us again on the Greg and Tim Show. Tim, thank you.
No, thank you, Greg.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank both of you. Tim was on a cruise at some point, right?
Don't forget, we are available on YouTube, which you might be watching on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, all the other places that you get your podcasts. You can check us out. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to like and share and comment and all those fun things, because when you do that, it gets great people like Dan out into the world, and we like to share them with everybody. So, yeah. Sharing is caring, right, Tim?
Sharing is absolutely caring.
Awesome.
Caring is important.
And caring is important.
It's very important.
Have a great day.
Arigato gozaimashita. Jamata ne.
What he said. Ditto.
Awesome.
Thanks for watching the Greg and Tim Show podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. Sharing is caring.